siento invencible. Me siento invencible.
Ey, me siento invencible. Más de 100 hijueputas en un spot. Aquí no hay miedo. El de 30 siempre está en la glock, irreconocible. Te vamos a dejar la cara si vienes a frontear más, si soy yo. A mí tú no me tocas, yo estoy bendecido por Dios. Si quieres guerra, ven, niga, ven, ven, ven. Contra mí tú dime quién, rápido de 0 a 100. Las putas en el Edén y los FN pa' los que fronten. Te vamos a poner a creer si no crees. ¿Quién puñeta eres tú? Vale, dota actitud. O la saco y pa' la ataúd. A bailar con los negros, la macarena te vamos a dar y no es por la vena. Pégate pa' ver si la furiquema.
It is 6 a.m. Just finished breakfast. Woke up earlier than anticipated, but I guess it's not really surprising. I gotta go get the second coat of tan, and then pre-judging is at 9, so I guess I'm gonna have a few rice cakes before that. I've seen a lot of comments. I see your comments, right? Oh, he's not lean enough, not lean enough. The bulker, he's too fat, revival fatness. Guys, I anticipated not being the leanest person. That's just not my thing, and I consciously made the decision to before I even did the show. I would rather place lower and hold on to more muscle, because I'm roughly 170 pounds. I weighed in at just under 170 yesterday with hardly any food or water in me. I would rather do that than get down to 155 pounds. Like, I refuse to get down to the weight I started lifting at. All right, just finished the second coat of tan. We have the sock. Those of you who have competed, you know what the sock is. He was like, do you have your sock? I was like, what do you mean? And then I was like, oh. Earlier than expected. My tanning time this morning was supposed to be 6:45, and I went at 6 because there was a huge line yesterday and nobody was there. So I basically was tanning with these huge open bodybuilder guys, just getting mogged into oblivion. And then I'm probably just gonna sit here. This is so exciting, isn't it? You just eat and tan and sit. And yeah, so I'm gonna sit here. That's it.
El flow que yo tengo es incomparable, me siento invencible, yo estoy imparable. Quieren sacarme del camino y por más que tratan nunca les sale. La furia buscando los burros en el agua y nosotros en el aire con los pájaros de metales. Yo soy invencible. Ok.
Yo soy invencible. Cabrón. Yo soy invencible.
Ey, préndelo, pásalo. Cabrón, tú no eres un shooter. Te tenemos saqueado el Uber. Los míos por corazón tienen un cooler. Ey, ustedes son panas de los azules. Mis conejillos de India pa' que yo me cure. No, conmigo no va a poder. Yo sé que tú me envidias y quisieras tener todo este poder. Tú no le metas así, ni volviendo a nacer. El que me toque se muere y luego forense los pasa a recoger. Por encima el mantel. Yo no sé lo que retroceder. Si los pillo no me voy a contener. Ninguno de ustedes me dura un asalto. Como Kikat yo los parto. Mis manos azules por contar los cuartos. Yo soy invencible.
Yo soy invencible.
Ok. Me siento invencible. Más de 100 hijueputas en un spot. Aquí no hay miedo. El de 30 siempre está en la glock, irreconocible. Te vamos a dejar la cara si vienes a frontear más, si soy yo. A mí tú no me tocas, yo estoy bendecido por Dios. Si quieres guerra, ven, niga, ven, ven, ven. Contra mí tú dime quién, rápido de 0 a 100. Las putas en el Edén y los FN pa' los que fronten. Te vamos a poner a creer si no crees. ¿Quién puñeta eres tú? Vale, dota actitud. O la saco y pa' la ataúd. A bailar con los negros, la macarena te vamos a dar y no es por la vena. Pégate pa' ver si la furiquema.
Next
competitor.
Alright, so we're going to wrap up this video with just kind of my unfiltered thoughts on the entire process competing. Do I regret competing? No, I don't. What would I have done differently? A lot of things, which we're going to talk about here. I will say, and this isn't to really make an excuse, but just a tip if you guys are going to compete yourselves, try not to schedule your competition and your prep at the same time as you're planning a cross-country move. Am I going to compete again? I don't want to come out right and say no. Like, I don't want to be like, I will never do that again. Because you do get the itch, right? Especially you get your photos and you see yourself and then it's like, oh, what I could have done better. I could have posed better. Which, whether you're into powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever it is, that's really why we stick with lifting for so long, because it's basically the endless act of self-improvement in some capacity. I could have committed more, obviously, but I didn't put a ton of time into my posing. And especially if you're in like classic physique and men's physique, it's basically like ballet. You watch some of these high-level guys pose, I mean, it's art, right? I call bodybuilding a performing art. It's a bunch of judges. And like I've said before, guys, the judges can judge however they want. One day they could reward the most shredded person, the next day the biggest. I remember I actually ran into the top 2 guys in my division backstage. And I was like, what are you guys competing in? They're like, true novice. I was like, bodybuilding? They're like, classic. I was like, well, there goes first place for me. As soon as I saw them, I was like, well, that's over. Like I said, guys, I went into this pretty much as, I want to call it, I guess, a bucket list thing, right? I wanted to try it out, the old college try. Did I want to win? Of course you want to win. But I don't really get too down on myself because I did not go 100% into this. Like, I'll be honest, by the last few weeks, guys, I wasn't even looking forward to the show. I was at the point where I just wanted to get it over with more than anything else. And I guess I'm going to share this now. I was thinking about doing a separate video on this, but by the final, I think it was the 3rd or 4th week out, I was basically binge eating, right? There was a point where I had like a little cheat meal one day, and then I just, like, I hadn't had that tasty food in so long, I kind of snapped and just kept getting more and more. Like, I did that more than I'd be proud to admit. Those Uber Eats receipts, man, they're not good. I pretty much sabotaged myself in that regard, but I was so mentally just like exhausted, I stopped even caring, which is not the mindset you want to have if you want to win the competition, right? But there was a point where I was so mentally exhausted and fatigued and stressed out due to other things, I was just like, I don't even care. Like, I just want to get up there, get this over with, and move on with my life. So I looked at the pictures of this show the past couple years online to kind of get a general guess of what the competition was going to be, and I did not expect it to be as steep as it was. And part of competing is the luck of the draw, right? You'll commonly hear people say like, oh, they give out pro cards like candy these days, it's too easy. You look at some of these lineups, man, some of these people, if they're genetically gifted, they have good gear, whatever the case is, if the rest of their class isn't that impressive, they can clean up easily. So if I button up all those things, I think I could make a better run at it. But the question for me really is, do I want to do all of that again? What, to get first place at a novice show? Then you got to compete again? You know, it's like, I'm not really chasing a pro card. I've never really cared about having a ifbb pro card or a natural bodybuilding pro card. Those can help for business purposes, but it's like, I don't think I need that, because unlike most people in fitness, I have a personality. Did I enjoy it? I don't want to say that I loved or hated it. It's kind of just what it is. I'm pretty much indifferent. In terms of the cosmetic component of bodybuilding, this is where I think I can never do it seriously. For lack of a better term, at least in my opinion, it's feminine. You know what I mean? Like, the entire presentation aspect of competitive bodybuilding, let's call a spade here. It's a beauty pageant. The shaving, the tanning. Have you guys, if you've never done this, if you've never walked around with like a bunch of spray tan on, it's disgusting. At least for me, you guys can tell with me, I'm a very hairy person naturally. Shaving my body hair off, I was bleeding everywhere. I will say, you get a newfound appreciation for whenever your girl takes a long time to get ready, because that stuff takes forever, dude. I take an hour just to trim up my beard and my neckline. My whole body shaving, that took hours, dude. And my girl also helped me too. She helped shave like my back and my posterior chain because I just can't see and can't reach there too. So it's a very time-consuming process. Bodybuilding competitively is not a poor man's game. So if you're really broke right now, guys, I know a lot of young broke people are like, I'm gonna move to this state, right? Like, here, I'm gonna move to LA and become a bodybuilder. You better have some money. You better have a good paying job or have a nest egg or an inheritance or something, or you at least better be ready to work your ass off 70, 80 hours a week, because this is not cheap. So there are some commercial opportunities in this. But a lot of people that do bodybuilding, guys, they're just regular people, right? They just work at a desk job, they work at a factory. Most of them are forgotten about, right? So if you have a social media presence, you can definitely leverage that better. But for a lot of people, man, they put in years and years and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, so much time. And maybe they win some local shows, and maybe they even scratch their way to a pro card, and then they just place bottom 3 for the rest of their life. And you go into bodybuilding very heavily, again, even if it's nothing more than a passion project, you see what happens, right? Like, people always wonder, why do bodybuilders die young? You know, the noble natties love to say this. Imagine taking years off of your life and doing steroids just to look a certain way. It's like, yes, that's how passionate these people are about this stuff. It is what it is, man. You know what I mean? Everything's destructive to some extent. What's the old saying? Find what you love and let it kill you. I'm not going to get mad at you, man. I'm not. I get it. Life is hard. Life sucks. It's boring. It's painful. People need outlets to summon all their frustration, anger, their dreams, whatever it is, right? So if competitive bodybuilding is that avenue for you, go for it. But that leads on to the next thing, because people are like, why would you compete in an NPC show that's untested and you're natural? Fake natty, fake natty. I don't believe in natural bodybuilding. Would I have placed higher in a natural show where more people are natural? Yeah, probably, maybe. But that doesn't concern me. Natural bodybuilding is a farce. If you're one of these people that's like, oh, but they passed the drug test, you need to wake up. Just because somebody claims lifetime natural and they pass drug tests, that does not mean anything. Your favorite pro athletes are all natural too, because they never got caught, right? And I will say, I'm kind of glad I did the NPC show, because you get to see how big these professionals or near professionals, how big they actually are. And you can see the side effects, right? Like, their backs are covered in acne scars. You can look at the pro photos, man, and all they talk about conditioning, striated glutes, I'm peeled, all this stuff, right? So bodybuilding's pretty much in an unwinnable situation, because if the freakiest people don't place first, everybody complains. Then whenever the freakiest people do place first, it's always like, oh man, these standards are out of control, no wonder all these people are dying. You know what I mean? It's like a no-win game. And you guys can see, man, there's plenty of people that compete in bodybuilding. They'll win a few shows, people start talking about them, oh, look at all this potential, and then they disappear from the scene. You see them on Instagram 2 years later, they have no muscle, right? It's like, what happened? Why'd they stop? They'll write about it. They'll tell you, like, it was too much, too intense, too expensive, too much time being spent, too many health consequences, right? So you really do have to be built different to take competitive bodybuilding far. You got to give it credit to some extent. It's like kind of crazy, but you have to respect how crazy it is. Just the sheer commitment, dedication, the absolute level of I don't care what happens to my health. And also too, people that go all into this activity and still don't even make much money, if any money ever doing it. That's the crazy thing. That's the one thing I do not want to happen for me. I don't want to be that person that puts in all this time and effort and money and just health consequences, all this stuff, and you get your pro card after 3 or 5 years of grinding for it, or even longer. Some people don't get their pro cards until 10 years of doing like NPC shows. 10 years to be able to make $1,000 off a show. And you spent that just to sign up and register and fly to the venue. You see what I mean? Like, the whole thing is crazy. So if you guys are considering competing, go for it. I would just say make sure that you've been training for a good amount of time. Again, you see all these 19-year-olds who are massive. Oh, natural, bro. It's like, yeah, okay, sure you are. If you're somebody who has a history of like binge eating or eating disorders, bad body dysmorphia, probably not the activity you want to get into, because bodybuilding, I don't see how you would not exacerbate that, the restrictiveness, the amount of looking in the mirror you have to do. I'll tell you what, man, I got so sick of just looking at myself in the mirror. It's kind of funny, like I picked like fitness influencer as my profession, and I don't like taking pictures of myself, which is really not good, because these guys just take pictures. I mean, you're just looking at yourself in the mirror all the time. And the whole eating thing on top of that, you can read a lot of female competitors talk about this. They go into binge eating cycles, they'll gain 50 pounds after the show, They're crying every day. It doesn't sound that appealing, does it? Whenever you really think about it. Competitive bodybuilding is a pretty interesting activity, but it's not for the faint of heart, man. You have to have your own level of, I don't want to say mental illness really, but you need to have a different gear mentally, and also gear, actual gear, if you get what I'm saying, to go far in this activity. It is what it is, man. So if you guys want to compete, I'm not going to tell you not to. I think you should do what you want to do and experience these things, but just proceed with caution. Don't get these grandiose delusions. Oh, I'm going to turn pro in 1 year. I'm going to win this show and this show. I know you see people on Instagram go pro in 2 shows because they're genetic freaks, all this other stuff. If you're genetically gifted, guys, for the most part, you're going to realize that whenever you're younger, right? You probably were very good at sports in grade school and high school. That's pretty common. And a lot of times, too, these coaches will see the genetic potential in people and reach out to them. I was talking to a dude backstage. He was 22 years old, and he told me that some coach reached out to him on Instagram because he's like, you've got great potential, and he trained him and prepared him for the show, and he won his class. You'll see people that want to go heavy into bodybuilding. They get caught up in the lifestyle, the grandeur, the dreams, all this stuff. They go on a bunch of gear, right? They lose their hair, they get gyno, health effects, the women get the deep voices, the 5 o'clock shadow, right? All these health effects. And then they're 3-5 years into the game and they're like, I'm not cut out for this, right? I just don't genetically have the small waist, the big shoulders. My legs just don't get that sweep to them. There's tons of bodybuilders, again, men and women both, who are in their mid-20s. They look 40 years old. Even if you're very good and like bodybuilding, I think even the person at the top would agree. A lot of this is not what you want to be doing with your life in a lot of cases. Unless you're that passionate and that genetically gifted to be able to take this far, there's a lot of pitfalls you could fall into, man. If you're going to compete and be like, I have to get first. Just understand, guys, a lot of this is social media illusion. It looks good on the internet, but if you turn the car off and look under the hood, it's bad a lot of the time. I think I'd be better off working behind the scenes of the Olympia to design them a stage that looks halfway decent. Okay, maybe help competitors pick some decent music. There was one guy at my show posing to Miley Cyrus, bro. Okay, like, I'm going to end the video here, but it's like, really, Miley Cyrus? But this has been it, guys. I'm tired of talking now. Thank you for watching and sitting through this video. Thank you for the continued support. Stay tuned now. We're on to Cultivating Mass Season 2, Road to 200 pounds. I might even get up to 210 or 220, depending on how things go. 220 might be a bit of a stretch at this point, but stay tuned for that. Thank you, as always, to the Patreon supporters and the channel members. Hit me up in the links down below for custom coaching programs and consultations. And I will catch you guys next time.